Authenticity. It's a word we hear often, but for a Capricorn, it's not just a trendy concept, it's a fundamental way of life. Welcome to Secret of the Zodiac, where today we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood aspects of the Capricorn personality, their unwavering commitment to authenticity and their profound reaction to fakeness in a world where social masks have become the norm, where carefully curated online personas rarely match reality, and where fake it till you make it has become acceptable life advice. The Capricorn stands as a silent guardian of truth. They move through life with a quiet intensity that often goes unnoticed until you've crossed that invisible line between genuine and artificial. Capricorns aren't just another zodiac sign with quirky traits and predictable reactions. They embody a complex psychological landscape where every interaction is meticulously archived, every word is weighted against actions, and every relationship is subject to their uncompromising standards of authenticity. Their earth element grounds them in reality, while their ruling planet Saturn, the taskmaster of the zodiac, instills in them a profound respect for integrity that borders on reverence. What you need to understand about Capricorns is that they don't approach relationships casually. Every connection they form has been carefully considered, evaluated against their long-term vision, and accepted only after passing through multiple filters of compatibility and authenticity. When they allow you into their world, it's never an impulsive decision. It's a calculated risk they're taking on someone they believe might be worthy of their carefully guarded truth. This methodical approach to human connection isn't cold or clinical as some might assume. Rather, it's a sophisticated protection mechanism born from a deep emotional sensitivity that few ever witness. Beneath their composed exterior lies an intricate emotional world where trust is sacred and betrayal cuts deeper than with any other sign. The Capricorn heart doesn't break easily, but when it does, it rarely heals to its original form. Their reaction to fakeness isn't about fragility or insecurity. It's about valuing time, the one resource they understand better than any other sign. Saturn's influence gives them an acute awareness of life's limited nature, and they refuse to waste precious moments on connections that lack substance. When you approach a Capricorn with anything less than your authentic self, you're not just risking rejection, you're signaling to them that you don't value their time enough to show up genuinely. The consequences of being fake with a Capricorn unfold in ways that many never see coming. There's no dramatic confrontation, no emotional outburst that gives you the opportunity to explain or defend yourself. Instead, something shifts beneath the surface, a quiet, almost imperceptible recalibration of their energy toward you. They'll still engage, they might even smile and maintain social pleasantries, but something essential has changed. That door to their true self, the one they opened with such careful consideration, begins to close silently. What makes this particularly dangerous is how subtle it appears. You might notice they no longer share personal thoughts, that their eyes have lost that warm recognition when they look at you, or that their energy has shifted from engaged to politely distant. By the time these changes become obvious enough to address, the Capricorn has already completed their internal evaluation and reached their verdict on your authenticity. The tragedy lies in what you'll never know you've lost. Capricorns reserve their most magnificent qualities, their unwavering loyalty, their practical wisdom, their quiet strength during life's storms, exclusively for those who have proven themselves authentic. The version of themselves they present to those they've categorized as fake is merely a shadow of their true capacity for connection. You'll never witness the depth of support they're capable of offering, the fierce protection they provide to their inner circle, or the surprisingly tender care they show to those they truly trust. Before we explore the specific reasons why being fake with a Capricorn leads to consequences few anticipate, take a moment to consider what authenticity really means. It's not about sharing every thought that crosses your mind or exposing vulnerabilities prematurely. For Capricorns, authenticity is about alignment, ensuring that your words, actions, and intentions form a coherent whole that stands up to scrutiny over time. As we move through each reason, you'll begin to recognize patterns that might exist in your own relationships with the Capricorns in your life. You might discover where cracks have already begun to form, or understand why certain connections that once seemed promising have mysteriously cooled without explanation. The good news is that understanding these dynamics gives you the opportunity to approach Capricorns with the genuine presence they value above all else. If you've ever wondered why a Capricorn suddenly became distant, why their initial warmth transformed into polite formality, or why they seem to share their true thoughts with everyone except you, the answers lie in the reasons we're about to explore. Their evaluation of your authenticity has already begun, whether you realize it or not, and the depth of connection you'll experience with them hangs in the balance. Reason number 1. Capricorns possess an unparalleled emotional memory that defies time itself. While they may not wear their emotions on their sleeve, make no mistake, every interaction, every word, every moment of perceived dishonesty is meticulously stored in their mental vault. Their emotional archives function with remarkable precision, cataloging not just what happened, but how it made them feel, the context surrounding it, and most importantly, the patterns it reveals about your character. This isn't the fleeting emotional memory that many signs possess, the kind that fades with time or gets rewritten with nostalgia. A Capricorn's emotional memory operates more like a sophisticated database, where each entry remains pristine and accessible, regardless of when it was created. Years can pass, yet they can recall with startling clarity exactly how your dishonesty made them feel, often with more emotional detail than when it first occurred. What makes this ability particularly formidable is that it operates beneath the surface of their composed exterior. You won't see them furiously taking notes or making obvious judgments. Instead, this process happens internally, away from your awareness, giving you no opportunity to interrupt or influence how these memories are categorized and stored. The danger here lies in underestimating the permanence of these impressions. Many mistakenly believe that a Capricorn's practical nature means they'll eventually get over instances of fakeness or simply move on as circumstances change. This fundamental misunderstanding leads to irreparable damage. When you're fake with a Capricorn, you're not just affecting the moment, you're permanently altering how they perceive you on a fundamental level. Their emotional memory doesn't exist to hold grudges. It serves as a sophisticated protection mechanism that allows them to recognize patterns others might miss. A single moment of inauthenticity might be forgiving, but when their emotional database detects a pattern, even if those instances are separated by years, the conclusion becomes inescapable. This isn't about vindictiveness. It's about their unwillingness to invest in relationships that their emotional intelligence has flagged as potentially harmful. The truly remarkable aspect of this trait is how it influences their ability to recognize growth. A Capricorn can simultaneously hold your past inauthenticity in perfect detail while acknowledging genuine change. Their emotional memory doesn't just store negative experiences. It creates a complete picture that allows them to recognize when someone has truly evolved versus when they're simply presenting a new version of the same inauthenticity. This nuanced understanding is what makes their judgment so accurate and so final when they determine someone is fundamentally fake. Reason number 2. A Capricorn's trust is a one-time opportunity that, once broken, doesn't regenerate. Trust isn't given freely by Capricorns. It's earned through consistent actions and unwavering authenticity over time. They approach relationships like master architects, carefully laying each brick of trust with precision and purpose, creating structures meant to last a lifetime. This methodical building process means that when they finally trust you, it represents a significant investment of their time, energy, and emotional resources. When fakeness corrupts this foundation, Capricorns don't make dramatic announcements or create emotional scenes. There's no explosive confrontation where feelings are aired and resolutions are attempted. Instead, they silently close that door forever, not out of spite, but out of practical self-preservation. They simply recognize that the foundation has been compromised beyond repair and quietly begin the process of emotional detachment. What makes this particularly devastating is the subtlety with which it occurs. The relationship doesn't end in a dramatic rupture that gives you the opportunity to explain or make amends. Instead, you might notice that something has shifted. A certain warmth has disappeared. Conversations remain surface level, or they no longer share their deeper thoughts and feelings. The Capricorn will continue to interact with you, perhaps even cordially, but that sacred inner space where real connection happens becomes forever inaccessible. This isn't the trust issues that many people experience after betrayal, the kind that can eventually heal with time and effort. For a Capricorn, this is a rational recalibration of boundaries. They've simply redesigned their emotional blueprint to exclude you from their authentic self, redirecting their energy toward connections that haven't violated their standards of authenticity. The finality of this decision often catches people by surprise. Many mistakenly believe that enough time or sufficient apologies will eventually restore what was lost. This misunderstanding stems from experiences with other signs who approach trust with more flexibility. With a Capricorn, once that door closes, attempts to reopen it only confirm their decision to seal it permanently. Each effort to regain their trust without genuine transformation only reinforces their conviction that the fakeness they detected was indeed fundamental to your character. Perhaps most poignantly, a Capricorn rarely explains this shift. They don't see the need to announce their withdrawal of trust or to justify their decision to protect themselves. This silence leaves many confused, wondering what changed or why the connection that once seemed so promising has become so superficial. By the time you recognize what's been lost, the Capricorn has already completely restructured their emotional landscape to thrive without your presence in those sacred spaces. Reason number 3. Capricorns are master pattern detectives with an almost supernatural ability to connect dots across time. The typical Capricorn possesses an analytical mind that constantly processes information, looking for consistencies and discrepancies in behavior that others might miss. This isn't just casual observation. It's a sophisticated pattern recognition system that operates continuously, even when they appear to be focused elsewhere. While you might think your occasional fakeness goes unnoticed or that small inconsistencies in your stories are forgotten, a Capricorn is silently cataloging these moments, creating an intricate map of your authentic versus inauthentic behaviors. They don't rush to judgment based on isolated incidents. Instead, they patiently collect evidence, sometimes for months or even years, before reaching their verdict on your authenticity. This methodical approach means that by the time you realize something has changed in your relationship with them, they've already processed countless instances of your inauthenticity, analyzed them for patterns, and reached conclusions based on substantial evidence. Their analysis isn't emotional or reactive. It's practical and evidence-based, making it nearly impossible to dismiss as a misunderstanding or overreaction. What makes this ability particularly powerful is how it transcends context. A Capricorn might notice how you present yourself differently across various social circles, catching inconsistencies in your stories over time, or observing the gap between your proclaimed values and your actual behavior. Each inconsistency, each small deception becomes a data point in their assessment of your character, forming connections that eventually reveal the complete picture of your authenticity or lack thereof. This pattern recognition extends to the subtlest forms of fakeness, the carefully curated social media presence that contradicts their direct experience of you, the selective vulnerability that seems calculated rather than genuine, or the convenient values that shift depending on who's listening. These observations aren't made with judgment or emotional investment. They're simply data being collected and analyzed with remarkable precision. The Capricorn's patience in this process is what makes their eventual conclusions so damning. They won't rush to label someone as fake based on limited information or momentary lapses. Instead, they allow patterns to reveal themselves naturally over time, giving you every opportunity to demonstrate consistent authenticity. This patience means that when they finally determine someone is fundamentally inauthentic, the evidence supporting that conclusion is overwhelming and irrefutable. What many fail to understand is that this pattern detection isn't something Capricorns do consciously or maliciously. It's simply how their minds naturally process the world. They aren't looking for reasons to exclude people from their lives. They're seeking evidence that confirms their initial investment was worthwhile. Their hope is always to discover patterns of authenticity that justify deepening the connection. When they instead uncover patterns of fakeness, their disappointment is genuine, even as their response is measured and controlled. By the time a Capricorn has accumulated enough evidence to conclude that someone's inauthenticity is a pattern rather than an anomaly, their perspective has shifted in ways that are nearly impossible to reverse. They've moved from hoping to discover your authentic self to accepting that what they're seeing is the most authentic version you're capable of showing. This shift isn't about judgment. It's about accepting reality as it presents itself and adjusting their investment accordingly. Reason number 4. A Capricorn's inner circle is sacred territory, carefully cultivated over years of thoughtful selection. This isn't merely a social network or a collection of friends. It's an ecosystem of trust that the Capricorn has architected with meticulous care. Each person admitted to this sacred space has passed through numerous unspoken tests of character, consistency, and authenticity. They've proven themselves not just as pleasant company, but as individuals whose values align with the Capricorn's rigorous standards for human connection. When you're invited into this exclusive territory, you're not simply being added to a contact list or social group. You're being welcomed into a carefully balanced system where each relationship serves a purpose and contributes to the Capricorn's sense of security and belonging in the world. This invitation represents one of the highest forms of trust a Capricorn can extend. The trust that you won't disrupt the harmony they've worked so diligently to create. The depth of this curation goes far beyond what most people realize. Capricorns don't just evaluate potential inner circle members on surface-level compatibility or shared interests. They observe how you interact with others in their circle, how you handle confidential information, whether your actions consistently align with your words, and how you respond in situations that test your character. This evaluation isn't a one-time assessment, but an ongoing process that never truly ends. When you introduce fakeness into this carefully balanced ecosystem, you're not simply damaging your individual relationship with the Capricorn. You're contaminating an environment that they have invested years, sometimes decades, in cultivating and protecting. You're introducing an element of discord into a symphony of connections that the Capricorn has harmonized through patient selection and boundary setting. The consequence isn't just losing a Capricorn's friendship, it's being completely extracted from their world of meaningful connections. They will methodically remove your influence from every aspect of their life with surgical precision. This isn't done maliciously or dramatically, but with the same quiet determination with which they built their inner circle in the first place. They'll redirect conversations that might involve you, decline invitations where you'll be present, and gradually redistribute the emotional energy they once invested in your connection. What makes this extraction particularly significant is that Capricorns serve as anchors in many social circles. Their stability and reliability often make them central figures around whom other relationships orbit. When they remove you from their inner sanctum, the impact extends beyond just losing their direct connection. You may find yourself gradually disconnected from an entire network of relationships that were sustained through your association with the Capricorn. This ripple effect happens not because the Capricorn speaks against you, but simply because their quiet withdrawal of energy creates a natural distance that others intuitively respect. The true tragedy in this exclusion is what you'll never experience again: the rare privilege of being part of a Capricorn's carefully cultivated world, where loyalty runs deeper than in almost any other social circle, where support is practical and unwavering, and where the quality of human connection transcends the superficial interactions that characterize most social environments. Reason number 5. For Capricorns, authenticity isn't just preferred, it's a fundamental value that defines how they navigate the world. While many signs have flexible boundaries around truth and presentation, Capricorns operate with a different ethical framework entirely. For them, authenticity isn't a social preference, or a philosophical concept. It's a core principle that guides every interaction, decision, and relationship they form. This commitment to authenticity stems from the Capricorn's ruling planet, Saturn, the cosmic taskmaster that demands integrity, structure, and responsibility. Under Saturn's influence, Capricorns develop an almost reverent relationship with truth. They see honesty not as a choice, but as the only foundation upon which anything meaningful can be built. This perspective isn't about moral superiority, it's about practical efficiency. Capricorns understand intuitively that relationships built on fakeness eventually collapse under their own contradictions, and they have no interest in investing in connections destined to fail. When you're fake with a Capricorn, you're not simply annoying them or causing temporary disappointment. You're committing what they consider a cardinal sin against their core belief system. You're demonstrating that you don't share their fundamental understanding of how human connections should function. This misalignment isn't something that can be overlooked or forgotten. It represents a fundamental incompatibility in how you approach the world. Capricorns invest their time with surgical precision, viewing every moment as a non-renewable resource that must be allocated thoughtfully. Genuine connections represent long-term investments worthy of their limited emotional energy. When they discover they've invested this precious resource in someone inauthentic, they experience it as more than personal betrayal. It's a profound waste of their most valuable asset, time itself. The depth of a Capricorn's reaction to inauthenticity stems from this violation of their carefully structured value system. They don't just feel hurt, they experience a fundamental betrayal that challenges their entire approach to human connection. This betrayal isn't processed emotionally as much as it is practically. They simply recalculate the return on investment your relationship offers and adjust their energy allocation accordingly. What many fail to understand is that a Capricorn's commitment to authenticity isn't about demanding perfection. They don't expect flawless behavior or complete transparency about every thought and feeling. What they require is congruence, that your actions align with your words, that your presented self reflects your actual self, and that your commitment to the relationship is genuine rather than performative. When fakeness reveals a gap between these elements, the Capricorn doesn't just question specific behaviors, they question the entirety of your shared connection. Reason number 6, Capricorns will never call you out publicly for your fakeness, and that's precisely what makes their response so powerful. Unlike more expressive signs who might create dramatic confrontations or demand explanations when they feel betrayed, Capricorns process deception internally. Their response is not to expose or embarrass you, but to quietly recalibrate their relationship with you in ways that preserve their dignity while protecting their emotional boundaries. This silent recalibration begins with subtle shifts that may go entirely unnoticed. They might become slightly less available, respond to messages with shorter replies, or decline invitations they would have previously accepted. There's no dramatic announcement, no ultimatum, no opportunity for you to defend yourself or explain your behavior. Instead, they make calculated adjustments to their relationship with you without fanfare or declaration. What makes this silent withdrawal of emotional investment far more devastating than any public call-out is that you remain completely unaware as it's happening. The changes are implemented so gradually, with such careful attention to social propriety, that by the time you recognize something significant has shifted, the Capricorn has already completely reconstructed their perception of you and your place in their life. This approach isn't passive-aggressive behavior designed to punish or provoke a response. It's a strategic preservation of energy. The Capricorn, recognizing that confrontation would require emotional resources, they're no longer willing to invest in a connection they've determined lacks authenticity. Their silence isn't an invitation for you to make amends. It's a final verdict delivered without words. The relationship continues to exist in form, but its substance has been irretrievably altered. You might still exchange pleasantries, attend the same social functions, or even collaborate professionally. But something essential has disappeared. That's something. The Capricorn's genuine presence, their unguarded self, their authentic engagement constitutes the true value they brought to your life and its absence creates a void that becomes increasingly apparent over time. What's particularly disorienting about this response is that you're given no clear moment of rupture to process and move beyond. There's no defining argument, no dramatic exit, no explicit rejection. Instead, there's just a growing awareness that something vital has changed. A warmth that once existed has cooled. A depth of connection that was once available has become inaccessible. This ambiguity often leaves people in a state of uncertainty, unable to address or resolve what they can feel but cannot name. By the time you gather the courage to address this shift directly, the Capricorn has already completed their internal processing. Any conversation about what's changed will be met with calm, measured responses that reveal little of their actual thoughts or feelings. They won't detail your transgressions or express their disappointment. Instead, they'll simply acknowledge that relationships evolve and people grow apart, platitudes that reveal nothing while confirming everything. This approach leaves you with no target for your defenses, no accusations to refute, no emotional display to dismiss as overreaction. The very absence of drama makes their response impossible to combat or delegitimize. You're left to confront the consequences of your inauthenticity without the catharsis of conflict or the clarity of confrontation. A uniquely powerful response that mirrors the quiet strength that defines the Capricorn at their core. Reason number 7. When a Capricorn's respect is lost through fakeness, it's not simply misplaced, it's irretrievable. Respect forms the cornerstone of how Capricorns relate to others, carrying a weight and significance that few other signs attribute to this concept. For a Capricorn, respect isn't a casual sentiment or social courtesy. It's a deliberate acknowledgement of someone's character, integrity, and value. They don't bestow it lightly or distribute it equally among their acquaintances. It's earned through consistent demonstrations of authenticity, ethical behavior, and alignment between words and actions. This carefully allocated respect becomes the foundation upon which all meaningful interactions are built. A Capricorn's time, energy, vulnerability, and resources flow naturally toward those they genuinely respect, creating a hierarchy of connection that determines everything from how attentively they listen to how deeply they invest in resolving conflicts. When respect is intact, a Capricorn will move mountains to maintain and nurture the relationship. They'll extend second chances, offer practical support during difficult times, and stand by you when others walk away. When fakeness reveals a gap between your presented self and your true nature, Capricorns don't just experience momentary disappointment. They undergo a comprehensive re-evaluation of your entire character, a process as thorough and methodical as their initial assessment was when building respect. This isn't about emotional reactivity or temporary frustration. It's a fundamental recalibration of how they categorize you in their mental landscape. What makes this particularly devastating is that this recalibration is rarely partial. Capricorns don't compartmentalize well when it comes to character assessment. They don't decide to respect your professional accomplishments while disrespecting your personal integrity, or appreciate your creativity while dismissing your ethical lapses. Instead, their respect operates as a holistic evaluation that encompasses all aspects of who you are. When it's compromised in one area, the entire structure begins to crumble. This isn't merely disliking you or being disappointed by your behavior. It's a fundamental devaluation of everything you represent. The Capricorn doesn't just withdraw from specific interactions. They mentally reclassify your entire presence in their life. Where once they saw someone worthy of their time and energy, they now see someone whose fundamental nature conflicts with their core values. This shift isn't dramatic or emotionally charged. It's a quiet, matter-of-fact reassessment that's all the more powerful for its calmness. What makes this loss of respect particularly consequential is that Capricorns are often influential, stable presences in their communities and professional circles. Their judgment carries weight with others who recognize their discernment and careful evaluation. When they withdraw their respect, they don't just personally disconnect. They mentally reclassify you in a way that can subtly influence how others in their sphere perceive you as well. This isn't because they actively campaign against you or share their negative assessment. It's because their genuine respect is a currency that holds value in their social and professional ecosystems, and its absence speaks volumes without a single word being uttered. Once this respect is lost, the path to recovering it is virtually non-existent. Capricorns don't operate on temporary emotional states that can be soothed or reset. Their assessments are based on observed patterns and accumulated evidence that they cannot simply ignore or forget. Apologies, temporary improvements, or grand gestures don't address the fundamental issue that they've seen beyond your social mask to something they consider inauthentic, and that vision cannot be unseen. Reason number 8. Capricorns don't view fakeness as a minor mistake or momentary lapse in judgment. They connect it directly to deeper character flaws that they cannot overlook. While many signs might compartmentalize behaviors, separating isolated incidents from their overall impression of someone, Capricorns possess an almost instinctive ability to trace surface behaviors back to their root causes. Their analytical minds naturally seek the foundation beneath the visible structure, understanding that what appears on the surface merely reflects something deeper below. When they detect inauthenticity, they don't just register the specific instance of fakeness. Their minds automatically begin excavating to understand what this behavior reveals about your fundamental character. This isn't about making snap judgments or jumping to conclusions. It's about recognizing that consistent patterns of behavior reflect consistent internal values and traits. For a Capricorn, fakeness signals fundamental issues that compromise their ability to trust you in any context. This connection between your momentary inauthenticity and your entire personality isn't emotional reactivity. It's their practical assessment that someone who can be fake in one situation can and will be fake in others. They understand intuitively that authenticity isn't situational. It's either a core value that guides all behavior, or it's not a value at all. When they detect that authenticity isn't among your guiding principles, they don't just question specific interactions. They question the foundation upon which your entire relationship is built. What makes this particularly significant is that Capricorns apply the same rigorous analysis to themselves. They hold their own behavior to the same standards of integrity and congruence that they expect from others. They regularly examine their own actions, words, and intentions for alignment, making adjustments when they detect discrepancies. This self-awareness makes them particularly sensitive to inauthenticity in others, not because they're judgmental by nature, but because they understand the effort required to maintain authentic alignment and recognize when that effort is absent. While other signs might compartmentalize a single instance of fakeness, chalking it up to a bad day or unusual circumstances, Capricorns see it as evidence of a pattern that extends into every aspect of your character. Once they've identified this pattern, each subsequent interaction is viewed through the lens of their conclusion. What might appear to others as ordinary behavior becomes, to the discerning Capricorn eye, further confirmation of their assessment. This isn't confirmation bias. It's pattern recognition operating with remarkable efficiency. Once this assessment is made, it becomes nearly impossible to convince them that your character deserves reconsideration. Their belief isn't based on emotion or impulse, but on careful observation and analysis. Attempting to persuade them otherwise only highlights the gap between your perception of yourself and their perception of you, a discrepancy that further reinforces their conclusion about your authenticity. This connection between surface behavior and core character isn't about judgment for its own sake. It's about the Capricorn's pragmatic need to invest their limited time and energy in relationships that align with their values. When they determine that someone's fundamental character doesn't support authentic connection, they're not condemning that person. They're simply recognizing an incompatibility that cannot be resolved through surface-level adjustments. Reason number 9. The moment the Capricorn detects fakeness, they immediately begin restructuring their future plans to minimize your significance in their life. Perhaps no trait defines Capricorns more distinctly than their natural orientation toward the future. While many signs live primarily in the present moment, Capricorns exist simultaneously in the now and the not yet, constantly mapping the path between current reality and desired outcomes. They are natural long-term planners who mentally construct elaborate blueprints for their lives, including detailed considerations of how specific people fit into that evolving architecture. When you earn a place in a Capricorn's life, you're not just part of their present reality, you're integrated into their vision of the future. They mentally assign you roles in upcoming projects, consider your presence in important life events, and factor your influence into decisions that may be years away from implementation. This future orientation isn't casual daydreaming, it's a sophisticated planning process that guides their current investments of time, energy, and emotional resources. When you prove yourself inauthentic, they don't just feel momentary disappointment. They engage in a comprehensive reorganization of their future vision. This restructuring begins immediately, often while they're still processing the initial recognition of your fakeness. With remarkable efficiency, they mentally extract your presence from scenarios where they once included you, recalculating timelines and readjusting expectations to account for your diminished role. This future-oriented response extends to every domain where your lives intersect. Relationships, professional collaborations, social gatherings, community projects, all are methodically reassessed to reduce their dependence on you. Invitations they would have extended are reconsidered. Confidences they would have shared are redirected. Opportunities they would have offered are reallocated to others whose authenticity remains intact. This isn't spite, it's self-preservation and efficiency. Capricorns won't waste resources nurturing connections they've identified as unreliable. They recognize that investments in inauthentic people yield diminishing returns over time, creating complications and disappointments that could have been avoided through more careful selection. Their restructuring isn't about punishing you, it's about optimizing their own future trajectory by removing potential sources of instability. What makes this particularly devastating is that this mental restructuring happens completely without your knowledge or input. There's no announcement of their changed perspective, no opportunity to defend your place in their future plans. By the time you notice your diminished role in their life, they've already created and implemented an entirely new blueprint for their future, one where you've been carefully designed out of the important spaces. This restructuring is most evident in how they discuss the future, where once they might have naturally included you in their plans. We should visit that new restaurant next month, or you'd be perfect for this project I'm planning. Their language shifts to exclude you from these forward-looking conversations. The invitations become less frequent, the collaborative opportunities disappear, and the natural assumption of your continued presence in their life quietly evaporates. Perhaps most poignantly, this restructuring isn't something they can easily reverse, even if they wanted to. Capricorns invest heavily in their planning process, considering contingencies and alternatives with remarkable thoroughness. Once they've reconstructed their vision without you, returning to the original blueprint would require dismantling work they've already completed, something their efficient nature strongly resists. The future they once envisioned with you at their side becomes a discarded draft, replaced by a revised version they consider more structurally sound. As we continue our exploration of the Capricorn mind, we'll discover how their approach to karma, their remarkable intuition, and their selective process for replacing inauthentic connections creates a powerful trifecta that makes being fake with a Capricorn one of the most consequential mistakes anyone can make in relationships. Reason number 10. Capricorns won't actively seek revenge for your fakeness. They'll simply step aside and let karma do the heavy lifting. Unlike more reactionary signs who might orchestrate elaborate schemes of retribution when betrayed, Capricorns possess a profound understanding of natural consequences that shapes their response to inauthenticity. This isn't passivity or avoidance. It's a sophisticated philosophical stance rooted in their deep connection to Saturn's energy, which governs time, consequences, and universal balance. When you're fake with a Capricorn, they don't plot your downfall or scheme to expose your inauthenticity to others. Their response is far more powerful in its restraint. They calmly remove themselves from the equation, creating space for the natural repercussions of inauthenticity to manifest in your life without their interference. This isn't about hoping for your failure or celebrating your setbacks. It's about recognizing that certain behaviors create inevitable outcomes that no external intervention can prevent or accelerate. This philosophical stance doesn't stem from spiritual beliefs alone, though many Capricorns do possess a strong sense of cosmic justice. It emerges primarily from their practical observation of human behavior over time. They've witnessed repeatedly how patterns of inauthenticity eventually collapse under their own contradictions, how relationships built on fakeness dissolve, how reputations constructed on false personas crumble, how opportunities gained through deception ultimately lead to greater losses. They understand this not as supernatural retribution, but as the natural mechanics of human interaction. What makes this approach particularly powerful is its patience. Capricorns don't need immediate validation that you'll face consequences for your inauthenticity. Their connection to Saturn gives them an expanded time horizon that few other signs possess. They understand that meaningful consequences often unfold over months or years rather than days or weeks. This patience allows them to step back completely, focusing their energy on authentic connections while your situation develops according to its own natural trajectory. There's a remarkable confidence in this approach, a quiet certainty that time will reveal what their discernment has already detected. Capricorns don't need to participate in or witness your consequences to feel that justice has been served. They have complete faith that over time, patterns of fakeness inevitably lead to isolation, missed opportunities, and diminished connections. Their quiet confidence in this process often proves eerily accurate, as those who practice deception eventually find themselves facing its natural harvest. This approach isn't about wishing you ill or hoping for your downfall. Most Capricorns take no pleasure in seeing others struggle, even those who have hurt them. Their step back isn't motivated by vindictiveness, but by a practical recognition that their energy is better invested elsewhere. They simply acknowledge that certain paths lead to certain destinations, and once you've chosen your path through inauthenticity, they respect your autonomy to experience its natural conclusion without their intervention. Perhaps most remarkably, this stance often leads Capricorns to experience a profound sense of peace after detecting someone's fakeness. Where other signs might ruminate on the betrayal or fantasize about confrontation, Capricorns simply release the situation to its natural course, freeing themselves from the emotional burden of managing its outcome. This isn't emotional detachment, it's emotional wisdom, recognizing that some processes must unfold without our involvement. Reason number 11, a Capricorn's intuition about people's true intentions borders on the supernatural, making any attempt to fool them ultimately futile. While Capricorns present themselves as practical, logical, and grounded, beneath this rational exterior lies a remarkable intuitive capacity that often surprises those who underestimate them. This isn't the emotional intuition that water signs are known for, nor is it the abstract pattern, recognition of air signs. Capricorn intuition operates as a sophisticated blend of empirical observation, pattern recognition, and subconscious processing that creates an almost uncanny ability to detect incongruence. This intuitive capacity doesn't announce itself with dramatic declarations or emotional reactions. Instead, it operates quietly in the background of their consciousness, registering subtle discrepancies between what is said and what is meant, between what is shown and what is hidden. They notice the micro-expressions that flash across your face before your social mask resets, the slight hesitations in your responses when truth and presentation diverge, the inconsistencies in your stories that emerge only when compared across multiple tellings. What makes their intuitive abilities particularly formidable is how they combine this emotional intelligence with rational analysis, creating a nearly infallible system for detecting inauthenticity. Unlike purely intuitive signs who might struggle to articulate why something feels off, Capricorns methodically collect and categorize evidence that supports their intuitive hits. This creates a feedback loop where intuition guides their attention towards subtle cues, which then provide concrete evidence that strengthens their intuitive accuracy, even when they can't immediately articulate why something feels inauthentic about your presentation. Their intuitive alerts rarely prove wrong. They might notice a subtle shift in your energy when discussing certain topics, a defensive quality that emerges in specific contexts, or a performative element to behaviors that should be natural. These observations may seem insignificant in isolation, but the Capricorn mind connects them into meaningful patterns that reveal deeper truths about your authenticity. This intuitive capacity extends beyond verbal communication to encompass your overall energy and presence. Capricorns are remarkably attuned to the subtle mismatch between genuine emotion and its performance, between natural confidence and its imitation, between actual expertise and its pretense. They can sense the effort behind fakeness, the subtle strain required to maintain inconsistent self-presentation, even when it's invisible to others. By the time you think you've successfully presented a false front, they've already sensed the truth behind it and begun their quiet reassessment of your character. This creates an almost comical dynamic where you believe your performance has been convincing while the Capricorn has already seen through it entirely. They rarely call attention to this discrepancy, preferring to file it away as useful information rather than creating confrontation. What makes this intuitive capacity particularly dangerous to those attempting inauthenticity is that it operates continuously and unconsciously. A Capricorn doesn't need to be actively analyzing you to register incongruence. Their intuitive radar functions even during casual interactions, social gatherings, or professional collaborations where their conscious attention is elsewhere. This means there's never a safe moment to be fake with a Capricorn. No context where their intuitive capacity is fully disengaged. Reason number 12. After detecting your fakeness, a Capricorn won't rush to fill the void you leave. They'll carefully select someone authentic who makes them forget you ever existed. The final and perhaps most profound consequence of being fake with a Capricorn emerges not from their immediate response to your inauthenticity, but from their methodical approach to rebuilding after your removal from their inner circle. Unlike more impulsive signs, who might quickly replace one connection with another to fill the emotional void, Capricorns approach replacement with the same careful consideration they bring to all significant decisions. Capricorns value quality connections over quantity, preferring a small circle of deeply authentic relationships to a large network of superficial ones. When they remove someone inauthentic from their inner circle, they don't immediately seek substitutes or rush to fill the emotional space that person occupied. Instead, they enter a period of careful evaluation, often preferring temporary solitude to premature replacement. This patient approach allows them to process the lessons from their experience with your inauthenticity, clarifying their understanding of what they truly value in relationships and refining their ability to detect fakeness earlier in future connections. They use this time not to dwell on disappointment, but to recalibrate their own standards and boundaries, often emerging with even more refined criteria for who deserves access to their authentic self. When they do finally begin to consider new connections, they approach the process with heightened discernment. Your inauthenticity doesn't make them more guarded or cynical. It makes them more precise in their assessment of character and more deliberate in their investment of energy. They test potential new connections against even higher standards of authenticity than before, watching carefully for the subtle inconsistencies that might signal future disappointment. What makes this particularly powerful is that when they do finally allow someone new into that space, the comparison inevitably highlights everything the authentic person brings that the fake person couldn't. The new connection flourishes with a depth and resonance that makes the previous relationship seem shallow by comparison. Conversations flow with an ease that requires no performance. Trust develops naturally without strain, and genuine compatibility creates momentum that no amount of strategic self-presentation could match. The Capricorn doesn't need to actively forget you. The authentic connection naturally eclipses the memory of what was ultimately revealed to be an insubstantial relationship. This isn't about replacing you with someone better in a competitive sense. It's about finally experiencing the authentic connection they always sought but couldn't find with someone operating behind a facade of fakeness. The contrast between genuine connection and its imitation becomes so stark that the memory of your relationship fades not through effort but through irrelevance. This replacement process reveals perhaps the most profound truth about being fake with a Capricorn. The greatest consequence isn't what you lose in the moment of discovery, but what you never experience in the aftermath, while you remain trapped in patterns of inauthenticity that yield increasingly diminishing returns in all your relationships. The Capricorn moves forward into connections of remarkable depth and sustainability. The authentic person who eventually occupies the space you once held doesn't just replace you, they reveal how limited your connection truly was, even at its peak. As we conclude our exploration of the Capricorn's response to fakeness, we see a complete picture emerging of why this particular transgression creates such profound and lasting consequences. From their unparalleled emotional memory to their patient selection of authentic replacements, Capricorns approach inauthenticity not with emotional reactivity, but with a sophisticated system of assessment and response that honors their own values while allowing natural consequences to unfold without their intervention. The message becomes clear. Authenticity with a Capricorn isn't just preferred, it's essential. The alternative isn't simply a momentary disappointment or temporary distance, but a comprehensive recalibration that removes you from their inner world with a finality few other signs can match. Yet for those who approach Capricorns with genuine authenticity, the rewards are equally profound. A connection of remarkable depth, loyalty, and sustainability that stands as one of the Zodiac's most valuable relationships. As we've explored throughout this journey into the Capricorn mind, authenticity isn't just preferred by this powerful Earth sign, it's absolutely essential. The 12 reasons we've uncovered reveal a fundamental truth. Being fake with a Capricorn doesn't just risk losing a connection, it guarantees a profound shift in how they perceive and interact with you on every level. The Capricorn's approach to inauthenticity begins with their remarkable emotional memory, that unparalleled ability to store and recall every moment of perceived fakeness with crystal clarity. This memory doesn't fade or soften with time, but remains accessible indefinitely, informing their ongoing assessment of your character, coupled with their one-time offer of trust, a precious resource they never redistribute once withdrawn. This creates a foundation that, once compromised, cannot be rebuilt. Their sophisticated pattern recognition elevates this process beyond simple emotional reaction, allowing them to connect seemingly isolated incidents into meaningful insights about your fundamental nature. When these patterns reveal inauthenticity, the Capricorn doesn't just question specific behaviors, they reassess your entire presence in their carefully curated inner circle, that sacred territory reserved exclusively for those who understand the value of authenticity. We've discovered how Capricorns view authenticity not as a social preference, but as a core value that defines their approach to all human connection. When fakeness violates this value system, their response isn't dramatic confrontation, but quiet recalibration, a silent withdrawal of emotional investment that occurs without announcement, yet transforms the relationship irreversibly. Perhaps most significantly, we've seen how Capricorns connect surface behavior to deeper character, understanding that fakeness isn't an isolated choice, but a reflection of fundamental traits that compromise their ability to trust you in any context. This understanding triggers an immediate restructuring of their future plans, methodically removing you from scenarios where they once included you without any dramatic announcement of this profound shift. The Capricorn's approach to consequences reveals their unique wisdom. They won't seek revenge or orchestrate your downfall, instead stepping aside with quiet confidence that karma will naturally address what their discernment has already detected. Their nearly supernatural intuition about true intentions makes any attempt at fakeness ultimately futile, as they sense incongruence long before you realize your performance has been transparent. Finally, we've explored how Capricorns approach replacement, not rushing to fill the void with just anyone, but patiently selecting authentic connections that ultimately make them forget the inauthentic relationship ever existed. This careful curation ensures that what replaces fakeness isn't merely another connection, but one of remarkable depth and sustainability that reveals how limited the previous relationship truly was. What makes Capricorns truly unique in the zodiac isn't just their reaction to fakeness, but the depth of authentic connection they offer to those who earn their trust. When you choose honesty and transparency with a Capricorn, you gain access to one of the most loyal, supportive, and steadfast allies you could ever hope to find. They offer a rare combination of practical support and emotional depth that can weather any storm and celebrate any triumph. The Capricorn who trusts you becomes an unwavering foundation in your life, someone who remembers every detail, honors every promise, and values every moment of genuine connection. If you found these insights valuable, we invite you to become part of our astrological family here at Secret of the Zodiac. Hit the subscribe button to join us on our journey through the stars, exploring the profound truths of each sign beyond the surface-level descriptions you find elsewhere. Your subscription helps us create daily content that delves into the real psychology and spiritual dimensions of the zodiac. Leave a like on this video to help others discover these crucial insights about Capricorn energy, and share it with anyone in your life who might benefit from understanding this powerful sign more deeply. We'd love to hear your experiences with Capricorns in the comments below. Have you witnessed their reaction to inauthenticity firsthand? Perhaps you're a Capricorn yourself, recognizing these patterns in your own responses to fakeness. Or maybe you've been on the receiving end of a Capricorn's silent withdrawal and only now understand what actually happened. For those who find particular value in our content, we invite you to consider supporting Secret of the Zodiac through Super Thanks, a direct way to help offset the costs associated with creating daily in-depth astrological content. Your contributions make it possible for us to continue producing these comprehensive explorations of each sign, bringing you insights that go far beyond typical horoscopes and personality descriptions. Every Super Thanks contribution helps us maintain our daily upload schedule and invest in the research and production quality that sets our content apart. The Zodiac community we're building together isn't just about consuming content. It's about creating a space where we can collectively deepen our understanding of these cosmic forces that shape our personalities and relationships. Your comments, likes, shares, and Super Thanks support don't just help the channel grow. They create the foundation for more nuanced and insightful explorations of astrological wisdom. Thank you for exploring the depths of Capricorn energy with us today. Remember, in a world that often celebrates superficial connections, the Capricorn stands as a powerful reminder that authenticity always reveals itself in time, and those who embrace it discover relationships of remarkable depth and significance. We'll see you in our next Zodiac exploration.